Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. It is a beautiful but cool mid-March morning here in Southwest Florida. It is 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And what I wanted to do today was share with you some video and a little bit of a story of a meeting that I held this past week. And this was a get-together gathering of BOING, which is Breeding Orchids by Intelligent but Naive Growers, which is a group that I formed with the Gulf Coast Orchid Alliance. And this was a meeting that was over at a grower's house where the guy has just a lot of plants. So we go over to, we've been over to his house, his place, and we want to go over to other people's places to see what orchids they have, but more importantly, to maybe hybridize or cross some of the orchids that the individuals have in their collection, and also to collect pollinia and save that pollinia in our pollinia boxes that we keep in the refrigerator to use for future crosses. So I have little bits and pieces of video that I'll splice together to share with you, and I'll narrate that video for you about some of the various activities and things that were going on, as well as taking just a real quick look and a scattered look at some of the plants in this individual's collection. And the title of the video is Lost in Orchids, because this guy, he has a lot of orchids. So he has shade houses that I'll show you, and sometimes it's even hard to maneuver within his shade houses because it's kind of like having to walk underneath my my pergola here. But he has huge expanses of his garden are like this here. So you have to kind of crouch down and go underneath the plants and not get hit by roots and plants and pots and hangers and things like that. But it's great because he has so many different plants and he has so many different things that were in flower. I also want to show you some of the pollinations that I did when I was there, and I'll narrate those events for you as well. So let's take a look and see what his collection looks like and show you some of the pollinations, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here we are, and we're heading into some of the shade houses in this person's collection, and there are 4 shade houses that you saw were on the left. We spent a lot of time looking at the various, before we even started crossing, looking at the various flowers in this collection and going through everything. And these two guys are discussing which flowers they want to make the crosses with. So you spend a lot of time, you put the effort into making crosses and growing the seed, and you just want to make sure that you put a lot of thought into that before it takes 3 to 5 to 7 years in order to get these crosses. So you want to be thoughtful about what kind of crosses you're going to make. These are some of the additional plants in this individual's collection, and he's just got a lot of plants in those 4 shade houses and in this area right here. This is an Oncidium that was in his collection, and coming up we have the Vanda house that really is just loaded, and there's just so many different Vandas that are in there that can be used for crossing. He has an extensive Vanda collection. But when we were there, we spent a lot of time, again, going over which orchids we're going to use in crosses and what those crosses were potentially going to look like. And there was the opportunity to bring some of the orchids out and put them on the stainless steel rack that's in front, so that you could get them out and work on them a little easier. So a whole variety of different plants. There's a Rhynchostylis gigantea right there. Lots of cattleyas, really lots of different plants. This is a plant that actually he didn't want us to cross because the show was coming up in a few weeks, and we had to be careful and not really do any damage to some of the plants that had just started into flowering, or some of the plants that he was going to enter into the show that was coming up actually the next week. But some of the plants like this is in full bloom, and it may or may not have been able to make it into the show, so we were able to use some of the plants for the crosses. This gives you flavor for what we had to go through in order to get to some of these plants. So these things, you know, it's just really crowded and really tight in there, and there's a lot of plants. And I was discussing, so this is me on the left, the owner is on the right here, and we were discussing what crosses he wanted to make. I think this is a Guarianthe skinneri right there. Some additional plants that he has in his collection, and again, you just want to make sure that you make smart decisions before you put the time into making your cross and growing things from seed. This is my the first cross, and this is actually a self of this orchid right here, and the owner really wanted to do this, so I placed the pollinia on the back of this flower on the stigmatic surface, and we'll see if this ends up being a successful cross or not. It was, you know, the selves are really easy to make. You get a combination of the two parents and then beyond when you make a self. It's something that I normally don't like to do too much of, but you can get some interesting results, and you can see some recessive mutations that come out. Here I'm just talking about the next cross that I'm going to make. So the idea behind this next cross is to take the pollinium from this flower here and then cross it onto a different plant. And the plant that I'm heading to is going to be the seed parent from this cross. And this is actually Oprah Winfrey that we're going to take a look at in a second, as soon as my camera person gets behind me. But at this point, what I'm going to just do is remove the anther cap containing the pollinia from the flower of Oprah Winfrey, and I'm just going to show you what the pollinium looks like in that anther cap. And I like to remove it before I place the pollinium from another flower onto that. So this is what the anther cap looks like, and the pollinia are the yellow, essentially sacs of pollen that are in that anther cap. In this case, I'm just discarding it because I'm not using it, but I got to make my way to that other flower that I'm going to collect pollinia that I want to use to pollinate onto Oprah Winfrey. So at this point, I'm in the other flower, collecting the anther cap, and then the pollinia. I think this case was nice. The pollinia just stuck to my forceps, and the anther cap I can discard. So then coming back, it's just a really simple question of, or task, I should say, of putting the pollinium, which is small and yellow or cream colored, putting it on the stigmatic surface of this flower. And this is easy to do because this flower is so big. In some cases it's harder to do. But right behind where the anther cap is where the stigmatic surface is located. So that, I think, is probably going to be a successful cross. The last thing to do is to tag the flower, and because there are so many orchids in his collection, we also put ribbon on each flower so that we can find it later. These small tags tend to disappear. This last cross that I'm going to show you is something that one of the BOING members wanted to do, and what I'm doing here is just taking the anther cap and just discarding it from the seed parent of this cross. And the anther cap here, kind of with the pollinia, it just kind of fell off and got stuck in the flower, and I'm just kind of removing it here and getting rid of it. The pollinia is on the end of the toothpick. I like using forceps. A lot of people use toothpicks, and again, the pollinia is a little sticky, and then she struggled a little bit with placement, so the pollinia go right back there in the flower. She struggled with placement a little bit, but she found it eventually, started a little too far up, and then but it had to go back a little bit further, and eventually we got the cross. So that's it for that successful cross. Okay, wow, I told you he has a lot of plants. And the interesting thing, and we couldn't tape too much into the dark, but the interesting thing is it got dark. So we had some people that were making pollinations close to the dark, and then we got out headlamps, but we couldn't record any of that because it was just so dark. But things just kept on going, and it was really a good time by all. And what we'll have to do is plan on meeting maybe earlier in the day the next time that we go out. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed kind of the chaos, and I hope that you felt for part of it like that you were in, in his collection and in the middle of his orchids. And it was really fun for a lot of us to be there, for all of us to be there. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did and you want to keep on seeing my videos, it would help me out if you could click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. Okay, that's all I have for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy propagating.